So, for those of you who don't know, my name is Craig Gravy, and I am one of the co-founders of Rise Together. We started this organization. Almost a year ago to recognize the fact that in 2022 we will have unprecedented turnout for citywide elections. New voters will outnumber previous voters by a 2-to-1 margin just because of the election date change. And as a result, the people of LA have a unique opportunity to reframe the conversation around who's elected. It doesn't matter whether you love him or hate him, but Eric Garcetti was elected with 200,000 votes in a city of 4 million people and a voter pool of 2.8 million. That's not great. Now with this unprecedented tide coming into the ballot box, we have a unique opportunity to give voice to everyday Angelenos. People who just feel like one side is shouting at the other and feel alone when they think about common sense solutions built on common ground. Our goal is to assemble the largest coalition of everyday Angelenos built to do just that. Have respectful, honest conversations about how to move this city forward with common sense and based on common ground. Not based on party or ideology, but based on how we get the job done. And the reality is that we're now signing up 1,000 people a day. We're over 50,000 people strong. We are on our way to our goal of being the single largest force for change in this city. Based on creating spaces where folks like you come and have honest conversations. And it's not just about who's here today in an environment where it's incredibly hot and we're still coming out of COVID-19, but it's in every way that we saturate that message. Our first candidates forum has been online for just 3 days and has over 15,000 voters who have watched it in just those first 3 days. And every video, every engagement that we do is designed to help spread the word among everyday Angelenos. Of course, there is a candidate who was signed up today who's missing. And the reality is that there are groups who have been active for a while who represent different ideologies and at times puritanical ideologies where they don't welcome new ideas or discussions and they attack on Twitter. We don't respond because they don't represent everyday Angelenos. They don't represent common ground, and they certainly don't represent the truth. But the reality is that some people get scared. People who have held power in this city, whether in City Hall or by being groups that are building grassroots organizations of several thousand people across the city, are scared when a new force comes to town, when a new group arises. They wonder who's behind it, what's the secret agenda? But what they misunderstand about Rise Together is that our only agenda is determined by the public. It's not based on any executive director or board or my ideology. It's the ideology of what the data tells us the public wants to focus on. 91% of Angelenos want reasonable, common sense solutions to homelessness, affordability, and crime, and we can help them see those solutions built from common ground. So, if I like chocolate sprinkles and the public likes rainbow sprinkles, Rise Together is obligated to represent the interests of the public, of the everyday Angelenos. So we'll welcome that candidate back, should he choose to rejoin us at a future forum, to listen to the everyday Angelenos, to have his voice heard by everyday Angelenos. But in the meantime, we are also grateful to the people who joined us today to have their voices heard and shared with the tens of thousands of members of Rise Together. And in particular to our moderator, Heidi Roberts, who is an experienced marketing and communications and business strategy executive, an experienced moderator who's also brought real and incredible change to this city, with housing hundreds of homeless people, with a 93% success rate with housing and services, with no 80% being accurate, with no government support or assistance. So she is both a great person in what she's brought for those people and their lives and our city, and also experienced in every way at leading these types of discussions and making sure that we have an honest, transparent discussion for everyone. So thank you, Heidi, for moderating, and thank you to our candidates, Elisa, Heidi, Heidi, and David, for joining us today. I'm so excited to hear what you have to say. Thank you.
Speaking working. Okay, great. For just another second. And I wanted to say thank you to you guys because I know this is so hot. I do have a little bit of sunscreen here if anybody needs it. So, you know, if you're feeling like you're going to cry. I don't have tons of it there, but use all of it. Use every single ounce. But we know that we're facing some pretty significant challenges in our city right now. And I just really wanted to thank you guys for coming together and spending time on this very, very hot day to learn and to listen to some different ideas that people are going to bring forward. And with that, I hope that we create some common ground today. And then also, thank you, candidates, because it is really hard to run for office. And it's really hard to do something that the public comments on. Take it from me. It's really hard to put yourself out there. And the time, energy, and enthusiasm that you bring to create this change is so appreciated by all of us. So with that, I want to make some introductions, and then I'll walk you through some quick ground rules in just a sec. But we have Elisa Avalos right here from CD11, who's running the CD. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm at CD11, so I'm so used to saying it. CD7. Don't worry. You come visit anytime. Who is running for City Council office. And then we have Heidi, another Heidi, she spells it a little differently, Feldstein Soto, who is running for City Attorney. And then we've got Teddy Kapur, who's also running for City Attorney. And then we've got David Vahedi, who also I hear goes by the name of Ty. So if you get really familiar, like we may just say slip and tie every once in a while. And he's running for City Controller. So with that, there are a few rules, and this is a really interesting format, I think, because we're not going to be talking about policy today. And how rare is it that we actually get to ask questions and understand who these guys are as humans and why they're doing this? And wouldn't it be awesome to know what people's intentions are? I mean, that's how I sort of choose friends and stuff, so it would be really neat to know that before we even get into policies. So each candidate is going to get a chance to speak with time limits, and there's going to be a timekeeper. Natasha's going to have some little cards, and they'll have 2 minutes, there you are. And she'll also give us a little note that says you have 30 seconds, so I may do some wrapping up for people. This is not a policy-based forum, as I said. Instead, we're going to be talking about just who they are as individuals and why they're here and sitting together with us today. We have no campaign literature here today, and we also have no petitions. And I know petitions are sort of all the rage in LA right now, but you're not going to see one of them here today, because this is all about just learning and getting to know people and not expressing personal opinions. The questions were not provided to anybody. They have not seen them. I just got to see them for the first time last night, so they're all fresh questions for us. We will ensure that we remain on topic, and I think they're really good questions too. Craig and his team wrote them, and they're going to be really good, insightful questions. And then we do have a couple of written questions that people dropped off in the box up front, and I've got them down here, and time permitting, we're going to ask those at the very end. But that's it. Make sure everybody has water, and get up and walk around, you guys. I mean, if you feel the need, like I'm frying out here, just walk around and go stand in the shade or something, come sit here. I know the cameraman's probably not thrilled with that request, but if you feel the need, walk around. Okay, so who wants to start first? Just first hand that goes up is the first question. Okay, here we go, Ty. So lots of people talk about their passion for the city and how much they love Los Angeles and when they're choosing to run and stuff. But we really hope that that's the case, and no one should be running unless they're really passionate about saving the city. But what is your inspiration? Like, what specifically drives your passion for this city that causes you to sit here in the 95-degree weather and answer questions?
Heidi, thank you. So, as a core value, I love to reinstill people's faith in government, and I love to help people. I'm that guy that sees a dog running on the street and will spend 40 minutes running around in a suit until we get that dog safe. And I'm the guy that likes to help somebody change a tire on the side of the road. And it's very interesting, but that's who I am. And so then you come back to my city, and I've been here. I was born in Santa Monica Hospital, so I got to be careful about born and raised, because technically I was born in Santa Monica, but on the third day moved to Playa del Rey, and then when I was 10, moved up to the west side. And things have changed in the city, and I served on my neighborhood council for 10 years, helped found it, served on my homeowners board, and there's always a belief that if you put energy in into the city will respond to you. And unfortunately, we've seen the last 5 years the homeless crisis, we've seen crime, we've seen LAPD act in a way that's not always constitutional. On a very personal level, I'd be scared to allow my 10-year-old and 15-year-old right now to go protest in the street, because often there is escalation and all of our rights to our First Amendment and protection of government are being threatened. And I hope when one of you is city attorney will make sure that LAPD, along with Ministry of Control, is properly trained in protecting constitutional rights. But the bottom line is, I've had a chance to live in Australia. I spent about a year of my life in Vancouver, Canada, and also about a year in Germany. And I was born here, I was raised here. It's where I always want to come back. It's a city I love, and I'm going to like it.
Excellent, thank you so much. Heidi, what about you? What is your passion? What drives your passion?
First of all, thank you to Craig and to Kate and to Zach for setting this up, and to all of you for coming. And thanks to my fellow candidates for being here. I've lived in LA since 1982, almost 40 years. Nacida y criada en San Juan, Puerto Rico, for those of you who speak Spanish, born and raised in San Juan, Puerto Rico, for those of you who don't. But that makes LA my adopted home. I've lived here longer than any place else. When I got here in 1982, I fell in love with the city. Folks from New York used to say to me, "What are you doing in La La Land? There's no Broadway, there's no culture." And it's like, oh, please. You obviously haven't spent any time in LA. You haven't been to the Falcon Theater. You haven't been to Will Greer's Botanicum Theatricum. You haven't been anywhere in the city, and you don't know it. There's anything you want to in LA, and even a 5-foot Latina can make her own way here and find a home. The only thing that's improved is the brown haze. It's a lot better than it used to be. And we have it a lot fewer days of the year. The city is a mess, okay? And I am retired. I am not a professional politician. I don't want to go to DC. I don't want to go to Sacramento. I'm not running for office to run for office. I'm a lawyer. And I was a lawyer in private practice for more than 35 years. And this is the only political job I'm ever going to run for. I can't say I'm not a politician because I'm running for office, but I'm not a career politician. This isn't how I'm going to make my living. And so at the end of the day, there's a push, because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, but there's also a calling. And my father, who passed away last year, was a corporate lawyer by day and a do-gooder by night. And so this is my call. This is my effort to throw a Hail Mary. I have some very specific ideas about what the city attorney can do to make things better, but this is not a policy discussion. So I'll leave you with that.
Excellent. This is the one question I would like to ask of everybody. So Elisa, would you like to answer this question about what drives your passion for doing this?
Yes.
Hello?
Hi, my name is Elisa Avalos. I was born and raised in the city of Oklahoma. And the reason why I am running, I've been volunteering in my community for over 15 years. These past few years, it's been disappointing in seeing homeless, our police officers, what they're going through, what's going on in our community. And it's very disappointing. I've been a president of Oklahoma Neighborhood Council. And being president, you're able to speak and you're able to help out people. So when you're able to help out people, for instance, I was at an event once and this older woman came asking for services for her grandson so he wouldn't join any gangs. Luckily at that event, there was organizations there that do that. I was able to go and help her, take him. She came back so happy. A few months later, her grandson came and thanked us. That's what it's about. That's why I'm running.
Excellent. I'm going to give you this faulty microphone back. Teddy.
Sure, thank you. And I also want to thank Rise Together for bringing us all together and hosting these forums and having a new voice in our civic dialogue. Los Angeles is one of the most diverse places on earth, really a city of immigrants. Myself, I am the son of immigrants, and I think the opportunities that my family enjoyed and benefited from is really the inspiration for why I want to give back to our city today. I'll share a little bit about that story. My dad was the first in his extended family to immigrate from India. He arrived in Queens, New York, lived in a basement apartment with other immigrants. My mom and my older brother arrived about 6 months later. They didn't have much money, but they had a wealth of hope and motivation for the future. My dad worked as an electronics repairman, overnight security guard. My mom worked different office jobs. My dad worked as and as they're working, my dad earned a master's degree in engineering. They went on to have stable jobs that they enjoyed for 25 years. And their middle-class jobs were the foundation for a stable family life that allowed my brother and I to thrive. And I think those opportunities are slipping away. If you look around Los Angeles and other cities as well. So, speaking about my inspiration, I think that we can do more in Los Angeles. I think that I'm uniquely qualified for the city attorney's role at this particular time. And as other immigrants here, I think that maybe we probably all agree that we have a deep appreciation for all of the opportunities that our city and our country has provided, and it drives us to give back.
Great, thank you. So Heidi, how do you balance the need to raise funds with the need to hear from your constituents or members of your district? I think I'm jumping ahead to your constituents. But there are some people who are not really in a position to give. So how do you find opportunities to make sure that you're hearing from everybody?
First of all, I'm running citywide, so it's the whole city's my constituency. The greater LA area is my constituency because so many of our problems spill over into neighboring areas. In this era of COVID, it's extremely difficult to campaign. I've been to more Zoom meetings than I care to count, but that's not necessarily the best way to meet people. As a candidate, I give out my cell phone number. I give out my personal and my campaign email. As an elected official, I can promise you that I will have an open door policy. I can promise you that one of the performance reviews for the staff will be how many emails and phone calls are not returned, okay? That's a demerit, because communication with the people we serve is the first job of every elected official. Never going to be able to satisfy everybody, okay? No doubt about that. But we have to at least respond. Responding with the truth as to why a particular decision is made, as opposed to trying to do a tap dance in kabuki theater about what the decision looks like, is absolutely critical. And someone like me, who doesn't want to run for anything else, I'm not hidebound to donations. I'm only here to serve.
Okay, thank you. David, have you thought about quitting since you started? And because you must have. I mean, there must be one night when you wake up, the cold sweat, and think, oh my God, what am I doing? What keeps you going?
So I love meeting people, and then segueing back to your last question, because the more people you meet, the more people you talk to, the more new ideas you get. I wish I could say to you that, I have every great idea in history. Well, I don't. I just have to be a good listener. And there's also something really cool. So, an 80-year-old woman lost her husband last month. Bristow from USC, a great professor. Her fence was broken into, and she called in and she's tied. You get somebody over to fix it. Looked at it, made 3 phone calls, couldn't get it done. And I just decided I'm going to build it myself. So I got the guts and the scars. We got it done. But at Hannah Wall Lumber to get the fencing material, I started talking to a gentleman. And it turned out that he was a master woods craftsman, the exact person Hannah's been trying to find. And I got another vote. And he called me up and he's like, hey, I got some ideas. And we shared it. And it's so amazing. So your question was, do you feel like you want to quit? Some days you get frustrated because you want people to understand. My biggest burden in this campaign, and maybe it's not with this group, but it's when I say to people that corruption has taken a real deep hold in our city. And they kind of look at you like, are you talking about the boogeyman? Is this hyperbole? And I'll say to them, how many of you know that Tuesday councilmen have been indicted for taking cash bribes, and one of them, sex workers that maybe weren't voluntarily doing what they were supposed to do. And we've had the deputy mayor arrested for corruption. We've had the city attorney's office raided by the FBI, the DWP. $100 million was stolen through the DWP by one person, one lawyer, who's now taking the Fifth Amendment and hopefully will be indicted. But $100 million, compare that, Heidi, to what you could do with $100 million to help people off the streets. And so, if I can get over that burden, that's my only burden. So do I think I'm ever going to give up, or do I want to give up? No. I love this, and I'm going to be a great city controller, and I'm going to make all of you proud.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, you're in it, clearly. Let's see, Elisa. Lots of people don't know what it takes to run for office. So how did you educate yourself? Did you use consultants? How did you bring it together? And who's been helping you figure out how to navigate this election process?
Hello. Oh, I just wanted to make sure this is working. Can you repeat your question?
Absolutely. So it takes a lot to run for office. And how did you educate yourself? Do you have consultants, or do you have people? Is there somebody that you really rely on to help you sort of navigate the process of running for office?
Yes, thank you for the question. I have my campaign manager named Mark, and my good friend Juan Salas, which was the treasurer of the Paima Neighborhood Council. So I'm going back to neighborhood councils and asking them for guidance and for help, and going to the community. Because at the end of the day, we have to go to the community to hear out and see what they need. I'm running for office, not for investors, but for my community. I'm sick and tired of what's going on in my community, and no one's representing them. That's what I'm doing. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So let's see, Teddy, what has been your biggest personal triumph so far? I mean, have you had a moment in this process where you thought, yeah, this is really working, and I feel really good about what happened today?
During the campaign?
During the campaign, not your entire life.
I think that there's not a single moment. Really, it's every day, making phone calls, going to meetings, trying to meet people. But I do feel a triumph in the conversations that I have when someone agrees that, and I know we're not focused on policy, but they agree that on ideas I have about how do we address homelessness, how do we build the 400,000 units of shelter that we need, how we're going to end the $25 million of wage theft that's stolen from workers every week in our city. So when I hear people resonate with those ideas and the experience that I have, and the ideas that I have bring to this candidacy, yeah, that excites me. I feel like that's a triumph.
Yeah, awesome, thanks. Heidi, have you made any mistakes? Is there anything that you would do differently so far?
Every day. Okay, please. Of course I've made mistakes. I paid too much money for campaign consultants at the beginning. I'm very careful with other people's money. So I probably, not spent it in the right way. But at the end of the day, here's the truth. In 4.5 months, I raised over $237,000. Nobody really thought that was possible. I went from everybody saying, oh, please, this is a Don Quixote tilting at windmills, to all of a sudden the pundits saying, you're a credible candidate. And I figure every mistake is experience, and experience makes you better and smarter. And I am having more good days than bad days. I am learning to maximize the time, and learning to enjoy the journey. Learning to talk to people, and when they disagree with you, the first time somebody disagreed with me, I started to try to argue and engage. I don't do that anymore. It's a waste of my time, it's a waste of theirs. If we can have a civil conversation, I'm open to ideas from any end of the political spectrum. I see the political spectrum is no longer a line. We don't have a far left and a far right. We have a circle where the far left and the far right meet in authoritarianism, and the rest of us are sitting here fighting for lowercase d democracy and lowercase r republic. And so I hope you'll join us in that battle. Thank you.
Thank you. David, the public seems to be really aware that our city is in crisis. And we've heard some of the data. People are really bothered right now. But we're in what's called an insider's primary. And I'm curious, what are you doing to make the public aware of your campaign in a time when usually only the names that are on the tip of everybody's tongue are really heard and interest groups are hyper involved?
So, because the controller's office is not perceived to be that sexy office, and I will make it a very powerful incubator for change. And when I tell people about that, because they look at the accounting, they're like, okay, you're the money manager, you're the one paying paychecks, paying the bills. It's when I talk to them about the proposals that we can put through. So I'm trying not to talk about policy now. It's like I want to talk because there's so many low-hanging fruits that when we talk about it, you're going to go, oh my God, that's an extra $100 million without a tax increase. That's $50 million without a tax increase. So, for me, I got to educate people about the importance of the office of the controller, and then explain why I'm the best candidate. I think I'm allowed to say, Greg and Katie, within the rules, that I'm the first one that would ever be elected that actually has a bachelor's of science in accounting and over 350 audits, both criminal and civil. So I'm not using it as a political stepping stone. So once people are aware of both what the importance of the controller's office, what experience I bring to it, and my enthusiasm for it, we will just have to now project that further through. We have some strategy I'd rather not share because I know 50,000 people are going to see this, but we will be there to communicate with as many people as possible. And I left some cards. Right, where did we leave them? It has my home number on it, my cell phone number on it, and people can call me and ask questions.
Okay, everybody got that? You can call him anytime. Okay, so Elisa, what has been your biggest triumph? What are you most proud of that really just made you feel when you went home that evening that you just made it that day?
That I'm able to help out and give resources to someone that really needs it. When I was growing up, I'm the youngest of 8, and I'm Hispanic, so we help each other out. If someone's going through a hard time, you move in with us. And having to go and stand at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning at a church with my mom and my aunts and my cousins to get a block of cheese, to get powdered milk. I know what it feels like as a child, standing there with your parent and your parent looking at you, I'm sorry. Me being able to help people out, and children don't have to go through that, and for a parent to have to look at your child and say, we don't have it today. That is so sad. So when I'm able to help someone out, that makes me feel good. That's the reason why I'm running.
Thanks. Let's see, Teddy. So people are fired up in some areas of the city. And there are some people, like I've heard some numbers, like there are like 300 people in every district that are just on it. How, the flood is definitely coming and there are going to be people at the voter box this year. How would you engage people beyond those couple of hundred or couple of thousand people who are already fired up? How would you get them to pay attention?
It is exciting that for the first time we have these coinciding elections for a citywide race that will have multiples of numbers of people who have voted in the past. And I think it's important to talk to communities that aren't always heard from. Go to meetings where they're not activists, but just volunteers and local people. Last week, for instance, I spoke with the Town Rotary Club. They're not a 501c4, they're not a PAC, they're not a lobbying group. But it was great to have conversations like that. So I think if we can go throughout our diversity and try to talk to different pockets and explain to them how the process works, how important it is to vote, and how important each of our offices are to their lives, and I think that's a way to better engage the public.
Okay, great. Let's see, Heidi. Say there's somebody who's really like anti-Heidi. That does exist. I've met those people. So how do you engage?
Anti-all Heidi's or me specifically?
This is going to be me specifically.
Okay, just checking.
So let's say there's somebody who's very anti-you. How do you engage them? And do you engage them?
The short answer is it depends. If it's somebody who's just spewing personal attacks, no, I don't see any point to engaging. But if there's somebody who has gotten information about me that's personal or that they don't care about, I ask for a chance to explain it. Of course I talk to people. All of us have been in situations, and you don't live 63 years without winding up with something that somebody's going to object to. And so the ability to sit down and talk to somebody and either say, yes, that was me, I made a mistake, and here's how I'm different. Or, yes, that was me, and here's why it went down that way, and I would do it that way over again. Or, no, that wasn't me, is a useful tool. I'm hoping that, like everyone else on this panel, with specific ideas, and we can't talk about them, there is a level of excitement, there is a level of, this matters to my life. The tough thing for a politician, especially a lawyer, is to come forward and say to you guys, well, here's the technical provisions of the charter and the municipal code, blah, blah, blah. That's not going to work. It's taking that and translating it into what does this mean to you? How does this affect your life on a daily basis? And that's my biggest challenge in communications, whether it's someone who's anti-Heidi or someone who thinks I'm the cat's meow.
Okay, thanks. Wise words. David, lots of people say, and I hear this all the time, I'm sure you do as well, it's like, oh my gosh, the city is such a mess. Why would anybody run? What's your response to that?
Well, I think that there are a lot of problems in the city of LA, homelessness being the first, and yet in your introduction you had an 83% success rate. 80%. And if we applied your model after a little, I think we spent over $1 billion in the city. The voters have been very generous. They passed Prop HHH, which I supported. We passed the county sales tax. The state of California has done. Is this policy?
It's a little bit policy.
Okay, because I love you and I don't want to offend you. So the question was, why am I doing it? And am I crazy? I'm doing it because I really do believe, vis-a-vis the city controller's office, I can get $200 to $300 million more a year without a tax increase for candidates, council members to spend it hopefully effectively to combat homelessness, crime, the root causes of crime, and start actually focusing on infrastructure.
Great. About how you balance the need to raise funds and the need to hear from and represent the people who are in your district who aren't necessarily in a position to give. How will you be engaging them?
I think we have to meet those people where they are. And so trying to go to more community events, of course, that's difficult during the pandemic, but this is a great opportunity today, and I've met some people before the panel started and hope to stick around and meet more people afterwards. I've been to another Rise Together event and met people there, and I think just trying to identify opportunities around our city to meet people who are engaged in the process, but also, again, like I mentioned earlier, trying to identify people who are not engaged, who think that the process doesn't work for them, that elected officials don't represent them. We need to speak to them and explain that, and convince and persuade them that we will be different and that the city does need to work for them.
Okay, awesome. Elisa, what has been the biggest mistake that you've made so far? This is a tough one, isn't it?
Yes, it is. My biggest mistake, and my campaign manager taught me this, I seem to trust very easily. I believe in people, and I know sometimes they don't have their best interest in you, but that's been one of my biggest mistakes. But when I make one mistake, I own up to it, and I learn from it, and I move on.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so I have a question that came from the restaurant over there. Favorite colors? Just a quick one. Favorite color?
I don't have one, to be honest with you.
No. Heidi, you have a favorite color?
Pink.
Pink? Okay. Were you wearing a pink hat yesterday?
I was wearing my pink shirt, my pink hat, my pink sneakers, and I was in downtown LA, yes.
My favorite color is blue, but because Heidi's wearing a yellow jacket, I've got a 19-month-old daughter, and she loves yellow. So, and she says Lalo. So I love your Lalo jacket, and that's my daughter's favorite color.
That's cute, thank you.
Cobalt blue.
Cobalt blue.
And you know, we should talk to the panel because one of the difficulties of running for office is when you have young kids. And you know, months go by and you just get a few minutes at the end of the day. And that's actually a struggle, and I'm very proud of you. You'll balance it, but it shows your commitment.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought because there is so much time that you're investing in this right now. I mean, are you feeling good about how you're able to balance your personal life and your professional life? Are you finding any balance in that? Everybody looks like they just got caught.
I don't have a personal life. It makes life easy. I live with my 91-year-old mom and my 65-pound rescue pup.
Elisa, do you have kids?
I have two. I have a 16-year-old named Andy and a 14-year-old, and I take them with me everywhere. I have a corny saying, because I'm president of the Pueblo Neighborhood Council, I volunteer a lot, so we go to a lot of community events. So my corny thing I always say is a family that volunteers together stays together. So I take my children with me everywhere, and they volunteer, and they actually enjoy it, and it's nice when they invite their friends also. So it's been a roller coaster ride, but I love it. I have the honor to live next door to my mom's house, so I get to see my mom. So that's great. Thank you for asking.
How's it been going for you? Are you finding some balance? I'm talking to you, Teddy, because you have an infant.
I feel like I'm always asking for patience and forgiveness at home. So just do my best. I'm still a partner in my law firm. I do homeless advocacy work like you do, the nonprofit, and I've got a 10-year-old and a 19-month-old. So just do my best every day.
Yeah, that's busy.
Can I say one last?
Please do. Please do.
Because if my husband sees this, he's gonna kill me. So thank you for your help and your support, because it's a team effort. But I was talking about my kids, but I wouldn't be able to do what I do without them. It's a partnership, and that's what I love. It's 50-50. Right now, it's 60-50 with him, but thank you.
Okay, great. I want to ask a couple of questions that the audience raised earlier, so give me 1 second while I pull. Submission box. I don't know if you guys saw this in the beginning.
Because I'm sitting next to you, I feel like I don't have anything.
Oh, it's okay. Oh, I love this question. What are your political aspirations? Where to from here?
I honestly believe the controller's office will be it. As much as I'm hoping that I'll be able to serve 2 terms as city council member, I am willing to make the tough decisions that may cause some of these institutions to really come after me. But ultimately, I'm now 50. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm 55 now. In 8 years, 9 years, 64. And at that point, just focus on the community.
Okay, political aspirations. Elisa, you have some political aspirations beyond this office?
Honestly, no. My community, my kid actually told me, Mom, you should run. This is for you. And we sat down and we talked about it. And they said, Mom, we're big enough. You got this. So that's the reason.
Teddy, how about you?
No, as a first-time candidate, I'd just be honored to have the privilege to serve our city and wake up every day trying to tackle the biggest problems and get our city back on track. That's just, I mean, that's the priority.
Heidi, where to from here?
I pledge not to run for any other office ever, so let's make life real simple. I'm a lawyer. I'm running for a job that I think I can do well from day one. Win, lose, or draw. I mean, this is sort of my foray into political life. And I'm not a natural politician. I'm not a career politician. I'm a lawyer, and I've always been a lawyer's lawyer. And that's the job I want to do.
Okay, here's another one that we're all going to be super interested in the answer to. What is your favorite LA secret spot? Elisa?
LA's secret spot. It's a barbecue spot in Compton. It's really good. So that's one of my favorite spots, but I also like going to the beach with my kids and my family.
Heidi, your secret spot?
It's not really a secret. It's probably the hike up to the waterfall in the Palisades during the week when it's not so crowded.
Teddy, secret spot?
Travel town. It's in Griffith Park. My son loved trains. Took him there yesterday with my 19-month-old daughter, but you've got these great old locomotives and flat green space to play in and a train ride for the kids.
David?
In Playa Rey, there is a little lagoon about a block from the beach, right off Vista Del Mar? Off Vista Del Mar, and if you ever get a chance, you just sit on the banks and there's beautiful ducks and geese and so forth, and the reed is growing out of the water, and it's absolutely heaven on earth if you just want to relax 15 minutes.
Great. And then here's my question. Craig is probably like, she's freelancing. Is I would love to hear when you're talking to friends and family who don't live in Los Angeles, like how do you describe it? Like just talk to me and pretend that you're, I'm living in another city and you say, I just really love living in Los Angeles because, how do you finish that sentence? So Heidi, will you finish that sentence for me?
There's anything you want to find here. You have to look for it a little bit, and we are a little bit spread out in neighborhoods. So we can get to know our neighbors. There's plenty of opportunity to interact. But whether you want to go skydiving, or you want to go up in the blimp, or you like to surf, or you like to hike in the mountains, or you like poetry, or you like comedy, whatever your tastes are, LA is wide open, and there's bound to be a place where you can fit in. And since I spent my whole life as a Puerto Rican Jew, concluding I fit in no place, LA is a place where I feel I can fit in any place.
Okay, excellent. David, how's that? What do you say? Just completely.
Well, it's interesting because, you look at LA and say, well, it's 4 million people, all doing their own things. And it's funny, I met my best friend in the world. He was walking his dog, I was walking my dog. And, we just started talking. Of course, my dog. I was at Rancho Chevy Hills Park yesterday, and I was amazed. There must have been 1,500 parents and kids out. My son was playing flag football, other kids were playing soccer. And I had a conversation with 6 dads, not about running for city controller, but just, how hard it is to watch our kids grow up so quickly, not to be able to throw them on our shoulders anymore. So I guess what I love about LA is that Heidi reps are right, it's so diverse and everybody can fit in, but it can really be a loving city and a city that can nurture your soul. We just got to work a little harder to fix some of the bigger problems so everybody can enjoy that part of the city.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Elisa, I love living in Los Angeles because
I love my District 7 because my district, if you need help, even if they don't know you, a stranger doesn't know you, we offer to help. My community, there's no other community like it. Whenever anyone's going through something, someone passed away or someone lost their job and they need to pay their rent, a neighbor says, hey, we'll all cook and we'll raise money to help you out. That's where I come from and that's where I'm proud to be from. That's why I love my district.
Okay, Teddy.
I would answer that with two responses. One, the rich diversity of our city. The tapestry of cultures and backgrounds is, I think, better than any place else in the world. And then when you fly into LA, you see it seems impenetrable. The city is just like, it's so big, 4 million people. And I agree with what David's saying. It's a collection of neighborhoods, a collection of communities, and I think that's gets lost, but it's so important to the identity of Los Angeles.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys so much. We're almost finished, but not quite. And I really feel like you've expressed and sort of shared who you are, and I think we all appreciate that a lot. It's so nice to hear from politicians or people who are running and actually hear about them as humans. And there's time and place for policy. At any rate, we're about to wrap up. I just got a little wrap up signal. And I want to give you guys each 1 minute just to, if there's anything you want to share with people that we didn't get a chance to cover, if you want to share something with people who are listening about who you are, why you're in it. Was just trying to avoid some policy, and we'll wrap up with that. Okay.
I'll take that. Thank you all for coming, okay? That's the first thing. Please stay engaged with all the federal races going on. Educating folks about the down ballot races that affect our day-to-day lives matter. I can say something nice about David's office because I'm not running for it. The fact is that Ron Galbraith has made a difference in all of our lives with his public property portal, with his transparency on the website. David is right that the office can make a huge difference. The city attorney's office is the same way. Our city council districts are the same way. And so you're here today, you're obviously engaged, spread the word, help us get the excitement up, help us elect individuals, whichever one of us is elected, who actually want to help the city and do their job every day.
Excellent. Teddy.
Sure. I want to also thank Rise Together and the whole team and Heidi for moderating today. It's so important to have these conversations. And I think it's also important to the mission of Rise Together. Find this here. Common sense built on common ground. And don't let anybody tell you that that leads to inaction. I definitely don't think that's the case. I think all of us are up here because we want to tackle these problems with urgency. 60,000 people are unhoused and need shelter and services. 400,000 units need to be built at all income levels. $25 million a week is not paid to workers. 15,000 jobs have closed. 500,000 people have lost work. There's so many big challenges. And I think we all can agree on common ground that those are really important priorities. The status quo is not working. So yes, thank you for staying engaged. Thank you for coming. I'm excited about the higher turnout. I hope it proves to be true. And please spread the word for others to get engaged and continue this conversation.
David?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Rise Together LA. And Craig, I want to thank you because I really think you started something that's long overdue and will pay huge dividends. And win, lose, or draw, as I mentioned, you're on the phone. I want to help you. I want to help this city. Heidi, thank you for moderating. Absolutely amazing job. And of course, thank you, Katie, thank you also for working with us today. But thank you for coming out on a Sunday to meet us, the candidates. You know, there's an old saying that you get the government you deserve. And I'm here to tell you, you don't deserve what's happening in LA. As Teddy said, as Craig says, as the sign said, common sense coming together. We do have solutions to these problems. And we will be able to make an LA that we're all proud of again. I'm not going to give up. I know none of you are going to give up. And I just ask that you reach out to your friends and neighbors, use those emails, Instagram, to talk about Rise Together, and let's get it done. Thank you so very much.
Elisa?
I want to say thank you to Craig and you for giving us this opportunity to introduce ourselves to you guys. But I also want to thank each and every one of you guys for being here. You guys could have been somewhere else, but you guys choose to be here and listen to us and get to know us and being involved. And for that, I'm very appreciative to each and every one of you. If you guys can please spread the word. I don't like to say I'm a public official. I'm a public servant. We need to go back to common ground. and common sense. Great minds think alike. I believe that we need to stop fighting who's right, who's wrong. We need to come back to the center and listen to each other and work with one another. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing, but we need people to represent us and fight for us, and that's what I'm here for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. I wish politics could always be listening and talking like this. This is great. Do you want to say anything, Craig, or are we closing? Okay, go get a beer.